ערב טוב וברוכים הבאים לפסטיבל הסופרים והסופרות הבינלאומי במשכנות שאננים בתמיכת הקרן לירושלים. תודה למכון הצרפתי על התמיכה. Good evening and welcome to the International Writers Festival at משכנות שאננים, supported by the Jerusalem Foundation. We would also like to thank the French Institute in Israel for supporting this event. עכשיו, לפני שאנחנו יוצאים לדרך, אנחנו כולנו יודעים שאנחנו בזמנים שעלולה להישמע אזעקה. במקרה כזה, חשוב לדעת שהחלל שאנחנו נמצאים בו הוא חלל מוגן. זה המקום הנכון להיות בו, יכול להיות שאפילו אנשים אחרים יצטרפו אלינו. אז אנחנו נשאר ישובים בבטחה ונמשיך בשלנו. בתקווה שלא נזדקק לזה. I will repeat in English. In case of an alarm, it is important to remember that this is a safe space. The room we're sitting in is the safest place to be, and so we will remain seated and proceed. Hopefully we won't need it. כעת אני שמחה להזמין לבמה את מר אריק גרבלסקי, נשיא הקרן לירושלים, לשאת דברי פתיחה. It is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Arik Gravelsky, President of the Jerusalem Foundation, to say a few words.
תודה רבה. זה כזה כבוד והתרגשות לפתוח את פסטיבל הסופרים הבינלאומי לשנת 2025. לכבוד אורחינו היקרים, אני אעבור לאנגלית. Welcome to the opening event of the International Writer Festival. This is a unique celebration of literature and culture, a powerful reminder that language transcends words and serves as a bridge between people, ideas, and worlds. You know, in the Jerusalem Foundation, we had this debate about the importance of investment in culture. Does it stand on the same level as what we invest in health centers or resilience centers? Or are these the basics and we should keep the leftovers and put them on in culture? And for me, this debate ended on October 8th. Because on October 8th, we all woke up in Jerusalem with 40,000 new residents, evacuees, who came to our city with nothing but their clothes on. On the same date, we started to get calls from all the cultural institutions of the city, most of them owned by the foundation, telling us all events are canceled. We have no idea how we can survive the next quarter. And I'm so proud that we understand what's coming, and we launch a program called Double Impact. We raised money in an emergency fund from all our friends and partners all over the world. And we gave all the evacuees free tickets to all cultural institutions, the theaters, the museums, the zoo. I'm proud to say that I think that we saved all institutions past this war safely. And the feedback from the evacuees was amazing. People told us, you know, for one night we forgot the horrors of the war. People told us, you know, Arik, we thought Jerusalem is just the Knesset and the Kotel. What an amazing city you have. And I can tell you that I'm sure that if somebody will make a research about the mental health of the evacuees that were in Jerusalem compared to any other place in the country, you'll see that the people that were in Jerusalem returned back in the best mental situation. So for me, this debate is over. Culture is basic. Culture is important, and the Jerusalem Foundation is so proud on all investments that we do in culture. But at this time, at a time when cultural boycotts of Israel are not uncommon and have only intensified over the past 2 years, these festivals offers a beacon of hope. Today, perhaps against the odds, we are proud to welcome 12 international writers who chose to travel here and be part of this festival, the largest number of international guests we have ever hosted. Their presence is not only inspiring, it is a courageous and meaningful act. We are also honored We are honored to welcome each and every one of them. On behalf of the Jerusalem Foundation, the משכנות שאננים Center, and the City of Jerusalem, I extend our heartfelt thanks. I would also like to warmly welcome ברנאר אנרי-לוי. A leading global thinker and a long-time friend and advocate of Israel. It's so great to see you here, Bernar. I extend my gratitude to everyone who helped make this festival possible. Our partners at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Culture and Sport, the Jerusalem Municipality, and the European Union in Israel, the CEO of the Jerusalem Foundation, Imri Ben Amid, the dedicated staff of Mishkenot Sha'ananim, and the entire festival production and organization team. You are doing a great work. I hope you all enjoy the festival and that the works and events inspire and move you. Good evening. שיהיה לנו פסטיבל נהדר.
Thank you. Tonight we will be hearing from one of the most influential and important intellectuals of our time, the French philosopher, writer, and filmmaker Bernard Henri-Levy. His new book, Israel Alone, published last September, is a profound analysis of Israel's loneliness following the events of October 7. And his fourth documentary about the war in Ukraine premiered just last week at the Cannes Film Festival. We are privileged to discuss with him his insights on Israel's current situation and the challenges facing the Western world today. Bernard Henri-Levy, please join me here. No further questions. Before we begin, first of all, thank you for that. That was very powerful. I have a very serious question. Are you sitting in the right side? Because I know this is my good side, but I want to make sure you're sitting on your good side.
I'm perfectly okay on both sides.
Wonderful. So you have two good sides.
In the old world, I would have said at your side in any case.
Yes.
Now I don't dare.
Okay. I would actually like to pick up right at the end because you mentioned a very interesting point that you make in the book where Israel has to be strong in order for the world to accept or look up to us. And I think that we too often think of strength in military terms or things governments do. And you were speaking of strength culturally. And we are here at the Jerusalem Writers' Festival. And I feel like there's been a loss of faith for a lot of people who saw themselves as part of the international intellectual brotherhood and sisterhood and found out after October 7th that conversations are one-sided and not ongoing. And where do we take our cultural strength? Or what does cultural strength look like now at this moment?
Cultural strength is based on two pillars. The old Jewish wisdom texts and treaties, and the modern contemporary literature. I think that the combination of the two make the real strength of a festival like this one. And it makes the vibrancy of the Israeli culture. Even in those in Israel, I know Israel, I came here first time 55 years ago. Even in Israel, those who have apparently no idea of the old treaties, of the old masters, which I refer to at the end of my opening remarks, even those who think that they are not really connected with the modern literature, here you have at work the combination of the two. It's a very strange place, Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, for that. This mix, this combination, very original, which make this this country and this city so cherishable for someone like me.
I think that we find ourselves at a point in time where the conversation remains inward. We're not being able to have it across borders. And something that I would love to hear from you about is your tour on campuses in the United States. I feel that perhaps there are some conversations that you've been having that we can benefit from hearing about.
You don't need. I think that really few countries are more few cultures are more open on the rest of the world than the Israeli one. But I accept to reply, of course, to your question. First of all, this book, Israel Alone, which my publisher in France thought to be a niche book. When I announced him that I was writing that, I was in Kfar, I was in Be'eri, I was in the ruins of the Nova festival. It was October 11 or 12, and I called my publisher at Grasset. I told him, I'm sorry, I postpone any project I have. I want to write a book which will be named in French, Solitude d'Israël, and in English, Israel Alone.
And this is the first week. You couldn't have known we would be so isolated.
No, but I felt it. I felt it. I saw immediately the yes, but. I saw immediately, even when Israel had not yet begun to retaliate, I heard all these pundits all over the world warning, don't retaliate too much, please keep proportion and so on. I saw it. I saw the UN, the General Secretary. I saw everywhere in the world. I'm not going to come back to that. All the first reflexes did show that the loneliness of Israel will become the rule. I was so stricken, even before, again, when Israel was still under shock, when the Israeli leadership, whatever you think about them, did not even know how to react. Even
it was
then,
all the people. The government was not functioning.
Government, civil society.
Yes.
I heard in America, I share my time between France, Europe, and America, already saying Israel is ready to commit a genocide, blah, 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 etc. So for me it was evident, this title was evident. But the point is that when I told that to my French publisher, he told me, okay, do it. I love you, I like you, you do rather good books anyway, but beware, it will be a very small sales. Be aware of that. I said, okay, I read it. And I'm sorry to say, but it was a bestseller in France. It was a New York Times bestseller in America. The only place where it was not a bestseller was in Israel, by the way. That's another question. But, so, that is the paradox. On one side, you have the pundits I mentioned. You have what I call the Western Street. Everybody speaks of the Arab Street, but we have also the Western Street, which works the same way. Okay? But you have also a huge public opinion, often silent, who is by heart and spirit with Israel. Look this week, the Eurovision
I
popular
was going to bring
vote.
it up. I didn't think you followed it.
So you see, this was nobody expected that. There was some attempts by Palestinian militants, so-called pro-Palestinian, which I think they are less pro-Palestinian than I am, but that's again another question, who tried to intrude. But the popular vote, as far as I understand, all over Europe was...
all over Europe and the world, because they let the rest of the world vote.
Okay, I'm not
it's very important to us. We collect every last vote.
So it's the paradox of the situation of Israel. It's one of the reasons of hope, why we should keep hope. and that's why I stressed that the most absurd and thing would be to lose hope, to say that there is no solution, that we the Jews, you Israelis are so despised and hated that there is nothing to lose and blah blah. This would be a terrible mistake, because it is not true. There is a real battle of opinion in the West, at least, probably also in the Muslim world and in the Arab world, between those who hate and those who don't.
And yet you took a big section of your book tour to the campuses where that were definitely not popular there. So I would love to hear how some of those conversations went.
Sometimes it was there was three sorts. It was a big tour, short one, but coast to coast and north to south. And I went in 12 universities, from California to Harvard to Columbia to Ohio University and so on, 12. And there was three situations. Some nice talks when it was a reasonable small audience. It was great. Sometimes also some teachers, some academics lent me their seat for 2 hours and I delivered the. And sometimes there was no talk at all, because there was a nearly physical quarrel. There were groups in some of these universities, in Pomona University in California, for example, who tried to prevent me from speaking. So I spoke, of course, but not in the same atmosphere. It is not the same to speak when you are mostly welcome, as I did in Stanford, for example. It was a great audience, largely Jewish, but not only, and in Pomona, where I was not welcome. And I had to speak, to take the mic and to keep the mic, not to take, to keep the mic in spite of this opposition and fight. So it depended. And what I found in these campuses did not surprise me. This is the reason why I undertook this tour, was stupidness, but also ignorance. Stupidness, hatred, and ignorance. There was three.
Which is easier to combat? Which one can you cancel out more quickly?
Point of ignorance. Three things very strange in high-level universities. They don't know what is an apartheid. They don't know what is a genocide. And they don't know what is colonialism. I had to teach for 1 hour or two what these three situations really are. Because I know what is an apartheid. I did fight so long, for such a long time in my life, against a real apartheid in South Africa. I know what is a genocide because I reported genocide in Darfur, genocide in Rwanda. I know what it is. I know the smell. I know the plan. I know how it works. I know, and I know colonialism because I was bred in a liberal culture. And one of this liberal culture, one pillar of this liberal culture was anti-colonialism. My generation was liberal, anti-totalitarian, and anti-colonialist. So I know exactly what it is. And I was confronted too often to people who, with good faith, did not know, because nobody probably did teach them. I don't know, I remember a course, for example, a seminary in one university where there was a seminary. The topic was Anne Frank in context. This was the title of the seminary. And the context was apartheid, genocide, colonialism. Anne Frank diary reread in context. And great academics, great professors, great teachers were the authors of this bullshit. So this is sometimes, often, not always, of course, the situation in the campuses.
I assume you encountered Jewish students as well, and I wonder if there were things they needed to hear from you to deal with their new reality, because things shifted not only for us here, but for Jews everywhere.
I'm sorry, I did not.
I'm wondering about your meeting young Jewish students on the campus. Were any of those conversations profound? Did they need to hear certain things from you? Because it must be really difficult to...
I learned from them. There was this sort of, for example, it was the whole tour lasted 12 days, and I had 2 Shabbat dinners. So these Shabbat dinners, one was in Harvard, and the other one in USC, I think. So it was great and charming and Shabbat dinner with a Jewish attendance. And no, I tried to learn from them and to learn from their solitude and from their bravery, because they keep thinking what they think. They keep behaving as they want. They keep they keep wearing a kippah, if it please or not pleases. So I was impressed. They were the age of my grandchildren, and so brave. My grandchildren are brave too, by the way. But but these were especially brave.
I would like to take us back and delve into the book a little bit, because we started a little bit on the tail of your words. And just to begin with the event with a capital E that begins the book. And can you elaborate on the significance of this distinction of?
Yeah, you have, every day you have events. But once every century, maybe, or twice in a century, you have event with a capital E. An event with a capital E means what? Number one, an event which is absolutely unpredictable. You can be a great scientist. You can know everything of the period, of the time. You can have all the information. You can have AI with a program having every information available. You will not predict this event. When I wrote, by the way, Israel Alone, when I tried to define these sort of events, it was not yet, or at least I was not aware of AI, okay? But now I refine my theory. I think that an event with capital E is an event which nobody, even the AI, fed with all the valuable information, will not predict, number one. Number two, it is an event who reshape, redefine, reorganize all the landscape, all the moment. It has unpredictable consequences also, unpredictable from the past, unpredictable for the future. This is an event with capital E, yeah, and something which we never saw also. Not only unpredictable, but never seen. Honestly, I'm a philosopher, but I'm also a reporter. And I reported many wars. And I saw a lot of horrors. And sometimes on huge scale, of course. I spoke about Rwanda, 800,000 deaths. But one example, the testimonies which I collected on October 12 in one of the kibbutzim about the rapes, the modality of the rape, the way in which rape was committed. I never heard that in all my experience of reportage or of war reporter. So this again, when you have an event which looks like no other, which brings a sort of variant, a sort of variety in the order of horrors, it deserves to be called an event. It's the third probably way of defining an event with capital E.
So I'm curious to ask, in which, like, how does an event like this change us? Because you describe an evil that can also be capitalized, right? This is an evil like no other. How does that affect anyone who comes in contact with it? And what can be a response to such evil?
It affects in two ways. For a minute, horror. And the world was horrified for a minute, I mean, few days, sometimes few weeks. But it affects the world in a second way. A furious will to erase, to forget, to minimize, to eradicate the event. So this was the two things which happened in these days. I was here, but I was here with some hostages' families, with some survivors, but also I was reading press day and night in the rest of the world, and I saw that horror and will to forget the horror and to rewrite the history, to say that it is not so horrific, to explain that it is not without reason, to express and to try to define the context in which it happened, and so on and so on. There is many ways to minimize, to reduce, to erase the horror. And I try to name these few of these ways.
And on the other side, because affected by the horror are not only the bystanders and people watching and hearing about it, within Israel, the voices calling for retaliation and revenge and dropping an atom bomb on Gaza, could those also be responses to encountering such evil? And how would you suggest to look at it from the side of those who are deeply involved and need to respond to this actual act?
I don't like revenge. I like justice, not revenge. And I am in favor of, as I said, of strength, which means, of course, I wished immediately with all my heart that the repetition, the reiteration of the horror would be prevented, would be made impossible. For that, you have to, alas, to make war. You have to destroy those who did and those who want to do it again. But it's not revenge. It's really self-defense. And for example, in the proposal I said, which is, and I'm sure that this is possible, it supposes that some of the killers of the pogromists will be saved, of course. Will go to Algiers or Qatar or wherever. Of course, a part of myself regrets that. But I really prefer the hostages back. I really prefer the security of Israel if the price to pay is not to take revenge on a few of these monsters. So revenge is not the right word. Self-defense, returns of the kids, of the holders of the whole stage in general? This is the question, not revenge.
In another book, oh yes. In a book of letters with someone who is also here tonight, you quote that order, you talk about the misquotation of order being more important than justice. How does that relate to what we were discussing?
The author is my friend,
Of course.
and the star of the in general and of the moment in Israel, Michel Houellebecq, Price of Jerusalem. I'm so jealous, by the way. Please, you have to. I hope to follow you one day before I die. It's a great prize, one of the most desirable on the literary scene, just before Nobel Prize. You are very, very lucky for that, and I'm honestly so happy. As you well know, I'm not very jealous in general. No, I am not. No. No, I'm a good companion, and I'm so happy for Michel to be awarded with that. So, really.
So can you say a few words about the misquotation of order being more important than justice?
Honestly, the book is so old.
Not to me, I just read it.
I forgot what I said. Yeah, I forgot. What I said something, yes, something nice about that. About the do you remember, Michel? What I said? Oh, yes, you were very young. Okay, take the mic.
No, you were really angry about me with this. It's the only time in the book I remember it perfectly. So, maybe I was wrong. But I don't like disorder, that's a fact, yes. Well, maybe we still not agree, so as we agree on Israel, we'll talk again of Israel. It's more simple. But on this sentence of Goethe, we don't agree, I think, yes. I'm afraid of that.
I will reread the passage. I will reread the fragments.
But you are very, very angry at this moment. Huh?
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you. All right, I didn't mean to invoke an old argument. You write in the book that no land on this planet is safe for Jews. My big question is, what about this land? And I would like to ask also a broader question, just how you see the relation between diaspora Jews and Israeli Jews, and how it has changed since October 7th.
What has changed is that for a Jew like me, and like a lot of Jews, Israel has always been considered as the safest place in the world. Okay. Suddenly on October 7, it became not so evident. It appeared that there was no place in the world, including Israel, which was a safe haven with Jews. It appeared that Judeophobia was a world-spread passion which knew no limits. And I will give you an example. In France, I will tell you something which is... okay, no, I will. Next question.
That's the story I want to hear.
No, better not. No. I'm sorry.
Okay, so do you want to move on to a different question? Or are there other words to say about...
Okay. I said what I had to
You
say.
said, okay, wonderful. So let's zoom out a little bit and look at a bigger global picture. In the book and also in a previous book, The Empire and the Five Kings, you talk about the global context of what is happening now. Turkey, Iran, China, Russia, all the countries that the Islamic, all the countries that are coming together and what they have to gain from what is going on now. So if you would like to elaborate and...
I mean by that today there are 5 former and dead empires. Number 1. The 5 of them want and pretend to resurrect, to be born again. Number 2. Number 3, they have this will, this wish comes because of the retreat of the West, the general retreat of the West, which creates a void, an emptiness, in which the 5, Turkey, China, Russia, Iran, and Sunni radical Islam, this void, they pretend to fill it. And number 4 or 5, they are connected together, even if they are historical enemies. Give you one example, which I don't know to which extent it is well known here, but when I went through all the available informations on October 7, available in the press, available among the intelligence world, and so on, I understood that, for example, Russia, who was supposed at that time to have a sort of pact with Israel. Putin was supposed to have the reputation of having some good personal relationship with Prime Minister Netanyahu. It is documented that Putin was aware of October 7 before, that some of the meetings which were held in Beirut with Iranian Guardian of Revolution, with Hezbollah people, with Hamas people, were attended also by Russian representatives. And it appeared also, I explain all that in the book, that after October 7, the first big country, the first country, not only big, maybe the first country at all, who received Hamas, who celebrated Hamas, who unrolled a red carpet under the feet of Hamas, was Russia. First visit Lavrov, and second one received by Putin. So you have these 5 dark kings who pretend to be emperors again, who are opposed by old quarrels and who tend to forget them because they have a common enemy, which is the West in general, and Israel in particular, Israel being considered, which is a question mark, by the way, as being part of the West. So
I feel like this leads us perhaps to hear a little bit about your vast work in the Ukraine. You made 4 films there since 2022. You've been on the ground with soldiers, some of them Israeli soldiers. I find this very interesting. And also, this is a question on top of a question, when speaking with the young Americans on campuses, did you ever manage to untangle the discrepancy between how they automatically support Palestine and Ukraine, completely ignoring that Putin is supporting Hamas?
They ignore 2 things. Number 1, that Putin supports Hamas, yes. And number 2, that there is a great difference between when you make a war of aggression without any motive, just out of nothing, because you decide that your neighbor should not exist on one side, and on the other side, when you make a war to defend yourself and to save your life. Putin is making a war of aggression, of annihilation against a peaceful neighbor who really did not ask for anything and which was very surprised. The government of Israel, the Israeli army, and the people of Israel has to face a war which Israel did not decide, which was imposed to Israel, and so on. So this is the huge difference. And it is so sometimes difficult to make understand this conceptual difference, but it is essential. And those Israeli soldiers whom I met on the ground, veterans of Tzahal, is very interesting. There is a group of them who became close friends. They are veterans of Tzahal. They enlisted themselves in the Ukrainian army, in the international regiment, but also in local battalions. And when the war between Israel and Hezbollah, Israel and Hamas, Israel and Houthis started, they came back to Israel. They were called as reservists, and they are fighting. One of them is fighting at this very minute, probably in Gaza. So for these, when you look these. When I look the world through the lens of these boys, who are again my brothers in spirit and in soul, not in combat because I don't fight, of course, but in spirit, it's so evident that Ukraine and Israel face the same sort of war, that they are on the same side of the barricade, that they are fighting for the same values. That the armies, by the way, look so much alike, the Israeli army and the Ukrainian army. President Zelensky, whom I know a little, whom I met at least many times, and whom I interviewed, he probably thinks that the Israeli army is a pattern, is a model for the Ukrainian army. And this might be a reason why the Ukrainian army has become, with the army of Israel, one of the best in the world. And for sure the best in Europe. The best in Europe. So there is a familiarity, there is a brotherhood, there is a shared values between Israel and Ukraine for sure. And for me, it's so evident that the same reasons who lead me to support Israel since ever lead me to support Ukraine since 11 years, and especially the last 3 years.
So you say you don't fight wars, but you have covered on the ground level so many wars in so many different countries. What draws you to go and actually be in places that you could probably report about from a distance and maybe report about other things? This is a very difficult...
To be honest, there is two sorts of situations. I have reported in my life some wars mainly because they were never reported, because they were forgotten, and because I thought that this was unfair. When I make a report about the martyrdom of the Christians in Nigeria, okay, I know that I do that because nobody does, because nobody cares, because it is not in the big light of the big eye of the public of the Western Street and the Arab Street and the Middle East. It's nowhere. So this is one situation. I went in Nigeria for that. I went in Somalia, in Mogadishu for that. I made a big story about Mogadishu 3 or 4 years ago. I covered some African wars like Angola a long time ago for the same reason, because they were out of frame, out of the picture. Then you have another situation which is radically the reverse. Wars which are not at the margin but at the center, wars which matter to everyone, maybe sometimes too much, but who are crucial, critical for, I don't know, my future, the future of my children, and the future of my grandchildren. This is the first category of wars, the forgotten ones. The outcome of these wars will not change anything, alas, in the destiny of my children. You know, some countries can disappear from the, it's horrible to say that, can disappear from the map of the world. It will not change anything in the life of our kids. Wars like Ukraine or Israel, it is the contrary. The outcome can change everything, can change the order of the world, can change the planet, will change our future. If Israel does not win this war, and if it does not win it in a clear way and in a fair way and with nobility, it will be a disaster for Israel, of course, but a disaster for a lot of other people in the area and out of the area. Same for Ukraine. If Ukraine loses this war, if Russia is rewarded with, I don't know, some gains, moral gains, political gains, territorial gains, winnings, the chain of consequences is unpredictable, but I have a little idea about it. It will be huge. So this is a second sort of case. And then I try to involve also with as much energy as the first ones.
We are nearing the end. I would like to ask, you mentioned Rabbi Delphine Orvaler earlier. Just yesterday there was an article in Haaretz about how she's been speaking out, criticizing the Israeli government and his choice not to end the war, and receiving threats. And I wonder what are the prices of doing the work that you do? Do you receive similar threats? Is that something that you have to?
Yeah, I receive, and since a long time. First of all, Delphine Orviller was right to speak out, and as I said in my remarks, there is no principled reason not to speak. There is
Can
no.
I quote she said that without a future for the Palestinian people, there can be no future for the Israeli people.
I would not phrase. We have a different way to phrase it. I would not phrase it this way, but it is what is sure. Two things are sure. For the moment, the hypothesis of a Palestinian state, alas, is out of frame. No country in the world would accept, and with right, the creation of a state which will be the day after its birth, due to destroy it. But to close the perspective, to admit that there is a total war forever between the two would be a disaster for Israel. That's why this crazy idea of Donald Trump, which is first stupid, but it is not only stupid, it's a huge, it is immensely dangerous for Israel. This idea of deporting 2 million people, this idea of cleansing ethnically a whole territory, this for Israel would be really a stain for forever. It will be unlivable for Israel. So in this sense, Delphine Orviller is right.
Just before we finish, because we are in Israel, and this isn't theory for us, and with the title of Israel Alone, I encourage you to read the book, and it is more optimistic than the title suggests. I would like to ask you to leave us with a few words of encouragement, hope, and perhaps thoughts of where we can lead.
No, the hope is what I said. Even if it is even if there are bitter victories, even if there were too many deaths on the two sides, Israel had already big part of the victory. Israel won on Hezbollah clearly by a spectacular military operation, as you know. On the southern front, it's probably it will be won very, very quickly. Iran has proved that it has been weakened by the Israeli retaliation after the April shooting of missile, but has proved to be much weaker than we thought. So the landscape is not so dark. No. The Abraham agreements which are, as I said, a treasure, a precious treasure, a huge acquisition.
But how about the spiritual landscape, the cultural landscape, the sense of loneliness?
Cultural landscape. I saw the list of Israeli writers who attend this festival. I know a few of them. They are brilliant. I see I heard from the president that all the international writers you invited are here. I read the comments of Michel Houellebecq today or yesterday saying that he was not among those who would even think of boycotting Israel. So the cultural life here is vibrant. There is. I know the calls for boycott. I know the BDS movement and so on, but strangely enough, it did not expand so widely. It was already wide 2 years ago. It did not expand dramatically. So the culture. If I were an Israeli politician, I will feel really isolated, blamed everywhere, cursed everywhere, even your allies. I don't know if you saw the Trump tweet of 1 hour ago. It's terrible. If Israel does not stop the war, we will abandon Israel. In proper words, stop the war, of course. Everybody wants to stop the war.
Someone
but how?
needs to send him your book.
Huh?
Someone needs to send Trump your book.
Yeah.
Or someone around him who reads.
Yeah, but does he read books? I don't know.
Yes, probably.
So
we'll send it to Ivanka.
So if I were an Israeli politician of whatever tendency, I would be anxious and I would feel bad. If I were an Israeli writer, as you are, Israel is again more alive, more vibrant, more open, more desirable from outside. Again, I don't want to praise us too much, but you have two examples here of not too bad French writers who wish to come, who are happy to be here, who are happy to share these moments, who are happy to be in the Mishkanot Shananim. And this is my reply.
All I can say is, Lu Yehi. Thank you so much. Siyamnu. אתם מוזמנים להמשיך איתנו לאירועים נוספים וגם לרחבת הבר והאוכל הממוקמת בקומת הכניסה. ברנאר אנרי-לוי יחתום על הספרים שלו בכניסה למשכנות, אז מי שמעוניין מוזמן להישאר. You are invited to join us for additional events as well as the barn dining area located at the entrance level. Bernar Henri-Levy will be signing his books at the entrance to Mishkenot. Before we say goodbye, I would like to thank you so much for this talk. And yes. And before we part for the night, we wish to take a moment to remember that we are not complete until every last one of us is home.